What a win on Sunday for the Philadelphia Eagles on the road against the Minnesota Vikings. And as Jalen Hurts said after the game, the Eagles are losers no more. We're recapping it all here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for tuning into today's show and supporting the program. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been able to do this, but the real ones know what the drill is. It's a Victory Monday here on the show, so if you're hyped, you're pumped up, and you loved what you saw from the Birds yesterday in Minneapolis, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. What I loved about that win, Jalen Hurts dazzled. He answered the noise. He answered the critics. I was hard on him. He knew that he needed to play better, and passing-wise, that was one of the best passing games of his NFL career. Not a hyperbolic statement, especially doing it against that defense. Top 10 overall unit in the National Football League with one of the top defensive coordinators in football in Brian Flores on the other sideline. And all year, through the first 6 games of the season, we were wondering, are the Eagles ever going to put together a complete game? Can they play a full 60-minute ball game? Can they play well for 4 quarters? Of course, there were some lulls against Minnesota, but that was the most complete game that the Eagles put together so far this year, and that is something that they can build off of moving forward. I really like some of the offensive adjustments that we saw from Kevin Patullo, Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, DeVonta Smith. He noticed what the defense was doing. He called for that deep shot to be called by Kevin Patullo. The execution was there. Jalen Hurts able to complete that pass. But we saw some different wrinkles with what the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts under center, some of the play action, some of the formations, some of the pre-snap motion. Lane Johnson talked about that after the game, and that's what football is about, making in-game adjustments. But as Nick Sirianni has shown since he came to Philadelphia in 2021, making in-season adjustments as well. And this defense really has been able to carry the weight of this team the last 2 years, and they gave up some yards. They gave up some big plays. They gave up some long drives. What did this Eagles defense do well, though? They held up well in the red zone, forcing the Vikings into a bunch of field goals, and that really went a long way in determining the outcome of this football game. Can you imagine if the Eagles lost that game? It would have been a 3-game losing skid. It would have been a loss to Carson Wentz, one of the worst starters right now across the NFL. The dangerous Giants would be looming, who you embarrassingly lost to a couple of weeks ago. Then they lost one of the most wild games you will ever see yesterday to the Denver Broncos. They need to save their season on Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field. And we would have been talking about an Eagles loss where their issues were unfixed, where they were clearly the better team, where they controlled most of the ball game, and a defeat would have been a very sour L for Philadelphia. Instead, this is something that I think can really propel the Eagles the rest of the 2025 season. Kind of like that Giants and Bengals win did for the Eagles last year when they once again started the season a little bit slow, and we had a bunch of questions about this football unit. Back to Jalen Hurts. What a terrific performance for him. And as I mentioned earlier, as we talked about yesterday, one of his best, if not the best, passing games of his career. He threw with accuracy. He threw with precision. He was very decisive. He threw with really good touch. He was completing passes at every level of the field. You had the long ball to DeVonta Smith. You had the extracurricular play to A.J. Brown for the first touchdown. You had the rip seam throw to A.J. Brown for that other score. One of the bigger plays of the game, too, the 3rd and 13 where he rolled to his right when it was a 1-score game, and he threw it to A.J. along the sideline to keep that drive moving, to keep the chains moving. That was a huge play in that game. Just an all-around spectacular performance for Jalen Hurts. Highly efficient, 19 of 23, 326 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and a perfect quarterback rating of 158.3. And yes, I did criticize Jalen Hurts after that Giants game because he was horrible in that game. He also wasn't good in the second half against the Denver Broncos, although he was close, as I said here on the show, to throwing for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. He wasn't good in the second half of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He even said that he needed to play better. And what a way for him to respond to the noise. But here's the thing. When you're a franchise quarterback, you're the face of the franchise for this organization. And when you are a Super Bowl champion, a Super Bowl MVP, when you have outplayed Patrick Mahomes in 2 Super Bowls, when you do that and you're the quarterback in this city, you will be held to a higher standard. Eagles fans were acting like he can't be criticized. He earned the right to be criticized because of what he's done for this team in this city. He needed to play better, and he cooked the Minnesota Vikings. One of the better games that we have seen him play in his career, and it was awesome watching that unfold. And I think confidence for individual people, individual athletes, for a team, it's always huge. And that's a win that I think can really get the confidence going for the Eagles. If they would have lost that game, 3 straight L's, they're feeling down about themselves, they'd be saying, uh-oh, is this going to be a repeat of 2023? Instead, they saw what they're capable of in all 3 phases: front office, general manager, coaching staff, players, and they're like, man, this is what we can do. This can be the launch point for the 2025 campaign. What I also loved about this performance is how the stars came to play, and the stars were shining and dazzling. The Jalen Carter pop hit on Carson Wentz, Jalen Hunt pick 6. A.J. Brown complaining about this offense, clearly wanted to get involved. You could tell when he scored both of those touchdowns. Threw a rifle of a football into the stands, screamed into the camera on the second touchdown. He let out a lot of frustrations, and I'm glad that he let his play speak. If you're going to talk and complain about this Eagles offense, you wanting to get involved, how the pass game needs to get better, you better perform. And A.J. Brown performed. 4 catches for $121, 2 receiving touchdowns, and an average yards per catch of 30.2. DeVonta Smith, he's not really vocal, but even he had complained a little bit about touches, the red zone offense, and the pass game. He backed it up with his play. And you saw yesterday why I've been saying for a couple of years, this is the best wide receiver duo in football when everything is operating swimmingly for the Eagles. 9 catches for Smitty, 183 yards, the touchdown of 79 yards, the longest of his career, average yards per catch of 20.3. And it was also the big receptions for AJ and Smitty in some really big spots. And I just love how they complement one another, right? AJ is the physical freak who can pick up yards after the catch, so difficult to cover. Then you have Smitty, who's got a little bit more speed. He's a little bit more slippery, and he is just a beautiful route runner. And an adjustment that I really loved from the Eagles is having Jalen Hurts take snaps from under center. That then led to some more successful plays on the ground, but also some play action throws. And Jalen Hurts is an underrated quarterback when operating from under center. Whether it's a 3-step drop, a 5-step drop, or a 7-step drop, especially off the play action, he can really be surgical from the quarterback position. And going into Sunday's game, the Eagles had only called 5 play action passes under center all year. So Hurts approached Sirianni late in the week and said, I want to do more of this. He took onus of the offense. He has control of this offense. He's a very high football IQ player. He is a coach's son, and you see it with the way that he approaches the game, the way that he plays the game, but with his overall football intelligence, right? And after the Eagles had only called 5 play-action passes under center all year prior to that Vikings game, Kevin Patullo called 4 of them against Minnesota. And Hurts, a perfect 4 for 4 for 121 yards, the 79-yard shot play to DeVonta Smith. And that was a fantastic in-game, in-season adjustment that the Eagles made during that mini bye week, which paid big dividends, and they found success against one of the top defenses and best defensive coordinators in all of football. And DeVonta Smith kept noticing that when the Eagles were operating from under center play action, safeties kept creeping up. And so he went to the coaching staff during the game and said, this shot play, this explosive play is going to be there. He also said after the game that because the Eagles had success from under center play action, that hopefully defenses stop going crazy trying to stop the run, because now they have to account for the play action pass. And let's do a little bit of a film study with that 79-yard touchdown from Jalen Hurts to DeVonta Smith. There's so much here that I really like. The adjustment of Jalen Hurts under center, the implementation of play action from under center. But what the Eagles also did here, they went heavy personnel toward the right side. They brought in Fred Johnson as an extra offensive lineman, and A.J. Brown is flanked here to Fred Johnson's right. And so when you're the defense and you see this type of alignment, you're thinking they're going to run the football to the right side with that heavy personnel of A.J. Brown being there, Fred Johnson being there. I'm pretty sure there's a tight end there too. And you look at the defensive alignment for Minnesota. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys along the line of scrimmage. One-on-one, you see DeVonta Smith here matched up with Isaiah Rodgers. We flip to the next slide, and what the Vikings were doing all day, you see Harrison Smith, the safety, he's going to get upfield. A.J. Brown is going to run a route here. He's going to occupy the safety. And DeVonta Smith is one-on-one with Isaiah Rodgers with no safety help. All DeVonta Smith has to do is win his route. Jalen Hurts has to sell the run with the play action. He has to deliver a great football. And as the play transpires, you see what DeVonta Smith was seeing all throughout the game, which is why he went to Kevin Patullo, Jalen Hurts, and Nick Sirianni and said, this deep shot is going to be there. And so it's a single high safety look, but that safety is not going to be able to reroute DeVonta Smith here because that safety is accounting for A.J. Brown being here. And so what the Vikings do is they send everybody along the defensive line to the backfield to try to stop the run. The safety covers A.J. Harrison Smith went upfield toward the line of scrimmage. He wanted to kind of cover this area right here. And that leaves, again, DeVonta Smith one-on-one with Isaiah Rodgers. And the route from Smitty was so clean. He faked the outside shoulder, broke in, got vertical, and we know what happened the rest of that play. 79-yard shot play from Jalen Hurts to DeVonta Smith right in stride. And that's part of the beauty of football, right? It's the play design. It's what the Eagles did prior to that play with a look like that. And understanding, okay, this is what the defense has been doing. We want to see how they react to this type of look, to these types of play calls, knowing that later on, as we continue to set the defense up for what to expect, we can then catch them by surprise, and we could take the top off of the defense. That's just great offensive football from what the Eagles had done prior to that play. During that play, the look, the personnel package, little wrinkles, like having Fred Johnson out there, and then the Eagles able to come through with a huge play given the moment of the game, because after that opening drive for the Eagles going into the third quarter, they hadn't really done anything after that opening drive in the first quarter, second quarter to start the third, and then they ripped the top off of the defense for that 79-yard score. Now, of course, there are lingering concerns with this Eagles offense, right? The ground game is still non-existent. Saquon Barkley hasn't had more than 100 all-purpose yards in a game this year. The route concepts still aren't great, but again, you're trying to find things in-game, in-season that work. You're trying to establish and find an identity, and I think the Eagles are starting to find that here. We've seen the flashes of it. Now it's time to really hone in on that, find your identity, and then play a full game. And the Eagles yesterday, good step in the right direction of playing a full 60-minute ball game. And then on defense, let's go back to some of the defensive takeaways for this game. How about the way that Quinyon Mitchell locked up Justin Jefferson yesterday? And Justin Jefferson, I think, is the number 2 best wide receiver in football behind Jamar Chase. If you watch that Thursday night game between the Bengals and the Steelers knew what was coming. They still could not stop Jamar Chase. He is special. He's one of one. I think he's in his own category, but Justin Jefferson is right behind him. A.J. Brown is in that tier as well. And Quinyon Mitchell had a rocky second half against the Broncos going up against Cortland Sutton. The prior 2 weeks against the Bucs and the Rams, he was playing like a defensive player of the year. He needed a bounce-back game, and he comes off the hamstring injury. He matches up against Justin Jefferson on 20 routes, and he won the matchup. He was spectacular. He gave up 1 catch on 3 targets for just 10 yards and allowed a passer rating of 43.7. It wasn't just Quinyon Bay. It was also Cooper DeJean, who played a lot on the outside at cornerback, and he fared well against Justin Jefferson. One of the biggest plays of the game and one of the big red zone stops for this Eagles defense was Cooper DeJean, one-on-one, back corner ball. Carson Wentz throws it up for JJ. Most of the time, Justin Jefferson is able to come down with that ball. But Cooper DeJean, really good technique. He was able to fight through the play, fight through the catch point, dislodge that football, get the pass breakup on a critical play. It kept a touchdown off the board for Minnesota. And those are your top 2 corners, your top 2 picks from the 2024 draft coming through, making some big-time plays. And I mentioned earlier, the stars came to play. These are the stars coming to play. How about the hit that Jalen Carter put on Carson Wentz as Jalen Hunt dropped back in that robber position and they robbed the Vikings? Carson Wentz never saw Jalen Hunt drop back into coverage. It was a great play call and play design from Vic Fangio. And Carson Wentz never saw Jalen Hunt. He gets popped by Jalen Carter, pick 6. That's a touchdown right there. Goes a long way in determining the outcome of the game. Just a fantastic win for Philadelphia, and I'm absolutely fired up about it, and I know you are as well. Eagles fans might be fired up about this. Coming up next, are the Eagles about to sign pass rusher Brandon Graham? Is BG, an Eagles legend, who played 15 years with the Birds before retiring after that Super Bowl win, going to come out of retirement and sign with Philadelphia? We'll get to that coming up here just around the corner. But if you've been watching this show for a long time, you know that outside of talking about football, I like to get my hands dirty. I like to get gritty. And I like hard jobs. I love woodworking. And I love my Brunt Work Boots. If you are a tradesman, if you are somebody who has to work hard for some of these tough, laboring jobs, you got to get Brunt Work Boots. Choosing work boots used to mean sacrificing comfort or durability. If they felt good, they didn't last. And if they lasted, they wrecked your feet. Well, Brunt thought that was BS. So they built tough boots that feel great from day one. No break-in, no sore feet, because people out there doing the real work shouldn't have to choose between comfort and durability. Founder Eric Girard grew up blue collar and started Brunt Workwear after his friends in the trades kept telling him, Eric, the big brands had stopped listening. They hadn't changed in 100 years. They had sold out to become fashion brands. So his buddies encouraged him to start a brand built for them, and that's why all Brunt products are named after the guys who grew up with real working tradesmen. How awesome is that? These are no doubt the most comfortable work boots I have ever worn. And they felt comfortable right out of the box. No long, painful break-in like all those other brands. But they're not just comfortable. They're built to perform. Whether you need waterproof, safety toe, soft toe, pull-on, lace-up, they've got the options that can handle whatever job site that you're walking into. Brunt was tired of the workwear brands out there cutting corners. You work too hard to be stuck in uncomfortable boots that don't hold up. So they built something better. Boots that are insanely comfortable and built for any job site. So for a limited time, our listeners get $10 off at Brunt when you use the code CHAT using our link, bruntworkwear.com/chat. That's code CHAT using our link, and then you're good to go. After you make your order, they're going to ask you where you heard about Brunt. Do us a favor and tell them it was from this show. All right, let's get to this. Is Brandon Graham about to come out of retirement and sign with the Philadelphia Eagles? It seems as though this is going to happen. We talked about this during our pregame show yesterday. We talked about this during the watch party. Thanks to everybody who joined us. And I mentioned it on my Twitter and Instagram. And this is coming from everywhere. This is coming from local reporters. This is coming from some of the national guys. John Clark, he put up a video of him on the field at US Bank Stadium. Eagles fans behind him going crazy. And he was doing a video talking about BG coming back. And he put out this tweet. Sources confirm that Brandon Graham is in play for a possible comeback. I'm told he has been working out every day over the last month to get in shape. I think it's happening. There is interest with the Eagles and BG in returning to help the team. There has been talks for weeks. There are family conversations that have to happen, but it could happen. Then there was this tweet from Adam Schefter. This is the national angle, right? With DeVonta Smith retiring, former Eagles defensive end Brandon Graham now strongly considering coming out of retirement to sign with Philadelphia. Graham played 15 seasons in Philadelphia, became the longest tenured Eagle in franchise history, the two-time Super Bowl champion, now could be close to building upon those marks if he and the Eagles can finalize a contract this week, according to sources. Then there was Jay Glazer on the Fox pregame show, and he said Brandon Graham is likely to come out of retirement. He could possibly sign with the Eagles as early as Monday. He could be on the field to play the New York Giants on Sunday. And then there was this wrinkle as well from Jay Glazer, that Howie reached out to Brandon Graham actually earlier this year before they signed DeVonta Smith to gauge whether or not he would be interested in playing once again. Now, obviously, there's a lot of talking points with this, right? Brandon Graham walked off into the sunset, storybook ending. He led the Eagles in all-time games played, number 3 all-time in sacks. He played 15 years with Philadelphia. Early on, people were saying that he was a bust, that the Eagles should have drafted Earl Thomas. And early on, Earl Thomas was the better player. But BG, over the long haul, became the better player with longevity. He became one of 4 players in franchise history to win 2 Super Bowl championships. In Super Bowl 52, maybe the most iconic play in franchise history with the strip sack of Tom Brady that was recovered by Philadelphia and Derek Barnett, which ended up putting that game on ice so that the Eagles could have their first parade down Broad Street, lift and hoist their first Lombardi trophy. And there are obvious concerns with BG coming back, right? Do you want to risk walking away like Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox did, where you get bounced in the wild card round in embarrassing fashion? Or do you want to walk away knowing that the final game that you played was ending the Chiefs' quest of a three-peat for Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Steve Spagnuolo, and you come through with one of the most dominant Super Bowl performances in the history of football, and you played a big role in being all over Patrick Mahomes all night, not blitzing once, and completely throttling them with your defensive effort. Also, BG is 37. And what type of player is he going to be? I will say this. If the Eagles bring him back, it's not like he has to play 100% of the snaps, right? All he'll have to do is play 15 to 20 snaps per game. I imagine Vic Fangio is cool with this. Remember what he said after the season? That jokingly, he was trying to convince BG to come back because he turned on the tape and he realized and knew BG is still then a fantastic player. Last year, BG played really, really well. And I think that he's capable of giving the Eagles 15 to 20 meaningful snaps per game. Keep in mind, their edge rusher production hasn't been great. Keep in mind that before tearing his triceps in Week 12, BG was putting together a really impressive year. In that game against the Rams, he was dominating. And last year, in totality, overall PFF grade of 78.6, run defense grade of 80.1, pass rush grade of 71.9. He had 20 pressures, 13 hurries, and 4 sacks. So I am down for this reunion because of how well BG played last year. The triceps is healed. He's been working out. All he has to do is be a rotational player for this team. You know that he brings leadership. You know that he brings a captain-like mentality to this Eagles team. He's fantastic in the locker room. And look, from a defensive standpoint, the Eagles need reinforcements at the edge spot. Their leading sack producer from the edge position retired in Zadarius Smith. So the edge rusher pass production has not necessarily been there for Philadelphia, and BG can help there. Plus, if you make a trade for a pass rusher, it further gives you depth and overall talent, pass rushing chops for this defense that badly needs it. So what say you? Do you want the Eagles to bring back Brandon Graham? B for back, R for stay retired. I'm typing my B's right now. Be sure to give me a follow on X and Instagram. We're crushing it here on Eagles Now, reaching millions and millions of people every single month with free content. I'm also reaching millions of people on my social media pages, giving you free content and covering the birds.